We begin a 9-week series on the fruit of the Spirit, and each week we'll be looking at a different component. Now, these attributes, these characteristics, originate in the very nature of God. So God is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. They come from who God is. And the fruit of the Spirit is a biblical term that identifies 9 visible characteristics. And I want you to hear that, visible characteristics. The fruit of the Spirit is something we embody. It's something that is lived out in how we journey together. It is something that can be seen in how we choose to live our lives on a daily basis. In a lot of ways, the fruit of the Spirit defines who we are and what makes us distinctive. Now, before we get to our first characteristic, let me do a bit backfilling to help us get a richer understanding of the impact of these words on the original audience. What we know is that during Paul's first missionary journey, he traveled to the region of Galatia. Now, for us, I want you to think of that as being the state of Florida. And along his way, Paul established a number of small churches in that region. These would have been the oldest churches, or they were the first churches to begin. Now, there were no church buildings, no budget, no committee meetings, just people meeting in houses, trying to live worthy lives, trying to be Christ-like. So Paul gets word that some missionaries, Judaizers, are what they called, probably Jewish Christian converts, have been teaching a contradicting message that threatens the core of the gospel message. And these Judaizers were trying to undo what Paul had done. Their interpretation of Christianity was that you must become a Jew before you become a Christian. So men had to be circumcised, and everybody had to abide by the laws of Moses and come over the covenant of Abraham, and then and only then could they receive the Messiah. So you had to be Jewish before you became Christian. So Paul kind of draws the line in the sand against this premise with great passion. What's he writing earlier in chapter 3? There is no longer Jew or Greek, no longer slave or free, no longer male or female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. And if you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. So central to Paul's message was that Christian life began and continues by the grace of God through faith. Okay, no doubt Paul wrote the book of Galatians. No scholarship disagreement on this. Somewhere between 50 and 60 A.D., which means 30 years before any of the Gospels and 20 years after the resurrection. One of the earliest, if not the earliest, writings. So as you read it thinking very early. So the outline is very simple and very quick. First part is a personal defense by Paul of his authority as an apostle. The second is a defense of the gospel of freedom from the law. And the third is a plea to continue to live by faith, a free, spirit-filled life of love. Now, our text for the series comes from this section where it is a plea to continue to live by faith, a free spirit life of love. We've already identified those 9 attributes. We're going to say them so many times that you're going to figure it out. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So you'll know them by heart. In the end of the series, you'll know them by heart. If not, we'll have tattoos placed on parts of your arms to remember that. So, the first characteristic is love. In the Greek, the word is agape. Now, I realize that you all already know everything about love. I realize that. I can't teach you one single thing about love. You know it all. A perfect 10. There is nothing you're going to learn. There is nothing you're going to hear. There is nothing new that you're going to learn about love. Right? Everybody's got love down. And I just wish I could just sit down and be quiet now. But before you wander off or start pondering the football games or the menu for Labor Day, I want to invite you to think about who you love and who loves you. I want you to bring into your consciousness those very people who matter most to you, those whom you love or loved. And I'll say there's quite a list, and it goes on and on. We are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses who love us. Now, I want you to think also for a moment why they love you or loved you. Ponder what it is about them that you love or loved. I just think we need to slow down a bit and honor what is so core in our lives and yet so easily overlooked or assumed or dismissed. I heard a story about a pastor whose mother had to be moved into a specialized nursing center because of Alzheimer's. And when she had moved in, he would regularly go visit her. And each time that he went to visit his mother, he noticed there was an elderly man sitting in the hallway with his wife, and she was in a wheelchair in the hallway and also with Alzheimer's. And he sat there just holding her hands. She was staring off into space, no eye contact, no communication, no connection between them. And every time this pastor went, he saw this man there simply holding her hand. So one day the pastor went over and introduced himself and, surprising, found out that they were members of the congregation. A bit awkward, but that's another sermon. So trying to say something pastoral and supportive, he said, "Chuck, I know this must be very hard for you to come here day after day after day knowing that Lucy doesn't even know who you are." So how Chuck replied to the pastor stuck in his head and his heart, words that the pastor never forgot. And Chuck looked up at the pastor and said, and said these words, "But I know who she is." So I don't think it's a coincidence that love is listed first as the fruit of the Spirit. Are the other attributes, embodiments, even possible without the presence of love? In the English language, there is only one word for love. The one word is L-O-V-E. We got it? Has a variety of meaning. Sexual desire, the love between family and members and friends, and the kind of love that Paul talks about, writes about. When I say I love you without qualifiers, it can mean to the hearer more or less than what I mean it to mean. So context is a great assistance. But we don't have that problem in the Greek. In Greek, the language of the New Testament, there are three words that means love. First word is eros. And we are familiar with this kind of word because we all like it. It comes from the Greek word for ours, erotic. Eros denotes the kind of love that has to do with sexual desire and attraction. It's the romantic, fallen in love kind of love, the love at first sight kind of love, the Valentine's Day love, the sleepless nights in Seattle kind of life. It's the love that you can't just live and think about anything else. It's good love, but it's not the fruit of the Spirit kind of love. And then there's a second Greek word for love, phileo. The word makes the first part of the great city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Phileo means to treat someone as one's own people. It's the family love, the love between parents and children, between siblings, and even between friends and neighbors. Phileo is the love of those bound tightly together by family and community ties. Phileo is enjoyable and renewing love, but it's not the fruit of the Spirit kind of love. Both the eros and the phileo kind of love are legitimate. So how boring would life would be if we didn't have eros or phileo? How empty that would be if we didn't have folks to love. But Paul does not use eros or phileo. He uses the word agape. It's the love that made you, the love of the Creator. It is the love that surrounds us and remains with us always. She okay? Carolyn, she okay? Don't know. We're going to take a pause. Stacy's there, so. All right, I heard it. I heard it. Very clear. I am okay. Okay, everybody good with that? Trust her? Okay, so he uses the word agape. See, that's the love between friends. That's the filial kind of love, the love that cares for each other when things are difficult, or the kind of love that celebrates when things are going well. But he uses the word agape, and unlike eros, which desires another for self-satisfaction, the love of God for us seeks nothing but our wholeness. Unlike phileo, which can evaporate in times of trouble and distance, the love of God for us never ends. God's love made us, and it redeems us, and it is a striving, seeking love that will not leave until it finds us. It is a love that will not let you go. So, in the midst of everything that's going on in your life, whatever it is, there's a love that will not let you go. Right now, you may feel nothing. There may not be any joy or kindness or compassion. You may be experiencing nothing. And with all the distractions and all the diversions and all the temptations that living in these days provide, and in spite of everything you have done in word or deed or in thought or have not done, you are loved. The love of God for us outlasts everything. All our great ideas, all our stupid mistakes, all of our failed relationship, all of our growing old bodies, God's love for us does not end. It's a core value. It is the fruit of the Spirit, our path and our purpose. And I want you to invite you to discover new ways or renew some of your old ways of sharing God's love within your circle of influence, but also outside your own comfort zone. We have a choice to follow the path. And when God's love is present in us, amazing things happen. So let me finish up before we gather around the table and offer you some encouragement about how to embody God's kind of love, how to embody agape. Show patience and kindness in your love for others. Use words and actions that encourage and support them. And you know who I'm talking about. You know who in your life needs kind words, encouraging and supportive words. They need to sense that love. Continue to treat your family and your friends and foes with respect. Accept their value. Honor them and offer them hope for their future. That's agape kind of love. It's agape kind of love when we build each other up and accept each other as heirs of the promise. Call them children of God if you want, brothers and sisters of Christ. But we build each other up. Believe in them because sometimes they're not going to believe in themselves. And that's what God has made us for. And that's what we can do for each other. Embody agape kind of love. And the hardest probably is to listen and look for life-giving past the journey together. J.K.A. Smith reminds us that to love your neighbor is to desire their flourishing, which ultimately also involves hoping they will find themselves in God. When love becomes visibly present in your life, the Spirit is alive in you. Visibly present in your life, the Spirit is alive in you. Okay, so the first fruit of the Spirit is